Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. Today, after the day job, I am off to check out the new movie Plane starring Gerard Butler and Mike Colter. So what is the plot of this film? Okay, so Gerard Butler plays an airline captain who is transporting regular passengers and a convicted criminal of some kind of thing. While in flight, there is a storm and Gerard Butler has to make a crash landing in a war-torn country. Then Gerard Butler and Mike Colter, the ex-con, are separated away from the passengers, so they have to fight through tons of guerrilla soldiers in order to save the day and rescue the passengers of their flight. And Gerard Butler is going to stop at nothing to save his passengers. Whew, okay, so this movie has January film written all over it. However, I would like to remind myself, last week I did pretty good at the movies. Megan was not half bad. I really enjoyed that movie. And Otto was enjoyable too. So maybe this January curse isn't gonna happen this year. Maybe all the really good movies that Hollywood's releasing is going to be in January. Okay, here's the wishful thinking. Honestly, I've got zero expectations of this film. Zero expectations. It looks to me like it's just going to be a completely generic action film. Now, here's the thing. If they lean into the cheesiness of this story, making it something like a 80s balls to the wall, highly violent, take no prisoners action film, then A-okay. This could be a fun little popcorn flick. If they try to take this movie a little too seriously, oh guys, I hope they don't do that. Alright, well, enough yammering. I've chewed your ear long enough, and besides, I gotta get to work. So off to the day job I go, and later on, I'll be back with more of The Plane. Welcome back, just getting home, and you know what, guys? This was a pretty solid movie. I'm starting to wonder about this whole January being Hollywood's dumping ground, because so far, I've seen 3 movies in the month of January, and I have enjoyed all 3. Okay, so this film is not exactly the way they marketed it. In my opinion, it seems like this film is being marketed as a very balls to the wall, let's go kill all the bad guys action film. And while yes, there is a huge blowout shootout near the end of the film, this movie is actually a little bit more survival and trying to save hostages kind of film. A lot more stealthy, not a lot of kicking down the door and blowing things up. The thing I really liked about this movie is it seems very real, a lot more grounded in reality than I was expecting it to be. Now, this film isn't flawless. There are a few things that annoyed me. So we're going to go ahead and get things started with the negatives, and then I'm going to move into the positives. First, negative. This film takes a little while to get going. It's a little slow at first, but when they finally get to the island, things do pick up. The passengers on this plane are very tropey. They're exactly what you would expect to find. It's like, oh, there's the asshole rich guy who's always bitching about something, and then you have the young couple who are in love, and the little, Instagram influencers who are constantly taking pictures of things. So, like, every one of the passengers were almost like stereotypes and not necessarily characters, which is fine. They didn't really have a lot to do to the plot. They were just very generic and in the background a lot. In fact, almost everybody in this film, save for the two lead actors, were very kind of generic and in the background for most of the film. Even the villains, and that's another thing that's kind of annoying. Not necessarily terrible, but the villains in this film are just basically bad guys. They're just basically pirates and thugs and opportunists and things of that sort. They're not any kind of, political movement or freedom fighters or anything like that. They're just thugs. That's it. So that's fine. But those are pretty much just the only negatives. Now, the positives on this film, okay, first off, Gerard Butler was really awesome in this film. This movie was not what I was expecting. I was expecting a very balls-to-the-wall, action-first kind of action film. And maybe a little comedy thrown in there also. It did look like it was playing it pretty straight, but then the trailer for, The Rundown back in the day also looked like that one was going to play it pretty straight. It ended up being a comedy. So I was really expecting a more over-the-top action film. And that is not this movie, and that is A-okay. Now, Gerard Butler's character is the pilot. He's the captain of the plane. However, he is not some special ops super soldier. He's just a veteran. I mean, he's just a dude who served. So yes, later on in the movie, when it gets to a lot of the action, yeah, he knows how to use a gun because he is a trained soldier. But beyond that, he's not special operatives or anything like that. He was mostly there just so he could go through their program so he could be a pilot. Now, the action star in this film is actually Mike Colter, who plays the convict. And let me tell you guys, I really dug him in this role, and I would actually like to see him in some other more balls-to-the-wall action type films. Because, man, he really has he's very convincing. Let's just put it that way. He really has that action guy vibe to him. And where Gerard Butler in this film, he fulfilled more of the everyman kind of hero in a movie. And that was great. He was very convincing in the role. Like, for instance, there's a scene that's a big throwdown fest. And it's not something where Gerard Butler and the bad guy are going at it like all fisticuffs and kung fu and stuff. It is literally two dudes fighting to survive. They are both just trying not to die in this fight. And it's very cool. I mean, you don't see stuff like that very often in movies anymore. So that was cool. It was kind of a breath of fresh air. So the movie, I feel, is suffering a little bit from mismarketing, and that's all I really have to say about this. Is this film something that you should see in theaters? Well, that kind of depends on you, honestly. If you're a fan of the action genre, but you like the ones that build up to the action, not necessarily non-stop, going at it, blowing things up kind of action, then this movie is definitely for you. Go check it out in the theaters. It is a solid film. If you're someone who just kind of likes action films, or this sounds interesting to you, but maybe you don't want to spend the money, wait for streaming, because I think this movie is one of those films that's going to really blow it up on the streaming services once it's there. Alright guys, well that's all I have for you today. Thanks again for checking out The Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. I'm gonna.